Hey everyone, welcome back to Poplar Preparedness. This is a very special episode. It is Black Friday for you, but it is Thanksgiving afternoon for me. I am home alone, so I am up to no good. I have never tried to make a cooking show with Poplar Preparedness or any other channel, but I'm going to be doing that right now because we're going to do a prepper spread of basically a Thanksgiving meal. What would it look like if the grid were down? Now, we're going to have to make some substitutions, partially because I don't have enough time to do everything myself, so we'll talk about some of those substitutions, but we're going to see a bunch of stuff out of my garden that I just harvested. We're going to be talking about how we would make things do with things like propane or rocket stoves, and even though I am using my my stage lights, we can all make believe that I'm using my LED lanterns, okay? That run off of rechargeable AA's that I can recharge with my solar panels outside. So let's get into what I have here. The first thing, the most important thing of all, especially in grid down situations, is hygiene. So I have these sanitizing wipes. Now you say, why don't I just use hand sanitizer? And I have a very important reason for this. Hand sanitizer will kill bacteria off your hands. That's true. And viruses and such like that. But what they won't do is it won't get like oils or chemicals off your hands. Whereas wet wipes are much better at taking chemicals off your hands or anything that might be toxic. If you were working with machinery or something like that and you got heavy metals on your hands, you're going to want to wash your hands with water and soap, best of, but then when it comes in here, just to get the very last bits off, wet wipe, and you're going to want to use as much of it as you can. You don't just use it. And then what you can do is you can then recharge these with hand sanitizer. So that's something that you need to think about, or rubbing alcohol. Eventually you can make your own alcohol, but that's a little bit more tricky. So let's get into the food of what we have here. We do not have turkey. You can go out and hunt your own turkey, but I didn't. And also my 3 chickens, I don't want to kill them just yet. They're still laying eggs too. So instead of mashed potatoes, we're going to be actually using my sunchokes that I just dug these out of my garden less than an hour ago. As I was preparing all this, I dug them up. This much sunchoke is basically just the corner of one of the plants that I have out there. I have a whole row of plants, so got a lot more of that where it's going to come from. This is actually going to be our first item that I'm going to be working on. I have some sorghum. Instead of stuffing, we're actually going to be roasting some sorghum kernels. We're going to be roasting these in a cast iron skillet, which we will then use to pan fry the chicken. We're going to be just using the propane burners. If you don't have any more propane, by constructing yourself a rocket stove or 2 rocket stoves, you can basically do the exact same thing with wood. So build your rocket stoves and use wood fire for that, and you can replicate what we are doing here. So sorghum, and then it's not so traditional to have like a salad for Thanksgiving, but these are radish greens and kohlrabi greens. That is a kohlrabi. I did wash these in the kitchen because it's just easier. But the kohlrabi greens are much more mild than the radish greens, so it's kind of like a mix of that. We're also going to be cutting up this kohlrabi. All right, so we want to just cut up these sunchokes really fine as best we can, because as we try to boil these, we need them to boil down as fast as possible. As you saw, I wasn't using my $50 K-Bar fancy survival knife. I was just using a kitchen knife because that's what normal people do. If you want to use ferro rods to light your burners on your propane stove, feel free to do so. But I'm just using a lighter. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to actually fry up my sorghum. And I say fry, but I'm actually meaning roast. So we're going to be using my other propane stove here to roast my sorghum. Now, as you can see here, I actually have my connector here. This is a backpacking stove that should be using other fuel, but it can burn off propane. So I'm just going to put my sorghum into the pan and just use a knife to kind of spread it out. Now we're going for dry roasted here. And while both of those are still cooking, I'm going to start chopping up my kohlrabi. Alright guys, forgive me because I put that cooking stove one on the floor because it was kind of making me a little nervous while I was cutting on here. So we have the kohlrabi sliced up. I also have a very small radish and a much larger radish that I'm going to chop up too. That's going to go with the salad and in a few other things. So the kohlrabi tastes like, it's hard to say, it's like a carrot that's not sweet. That's what kohlrabi is. I still got a little bit of that radish in my mouth too, but you know, the radish is it's a very mild radish. The big one is. So we're just throwing that in the salad. For the salad, we're just going to go super easy here. We're just going to be using olives. And then I'm using store-bought Italian dressing, but you can make this pretty easy with vinegar and oil and such. But I didn't have time for that, so I just am using the store-bought stuff. All right, so that didn't diffuse the the heat as much as I'd hoped, so the center is kind of burned. But we're removing all the sides. We'll give that a quick taste test now. Crunchy, like almost like a rye. We're going to get some water on this other burner, and I'm going to start making tea while the sunchokes are still working on. All right. Olives on that salad. Excellent. We got the kohlrabi on. We got the radish on. Just throw some, any kind of oil and vinaigrette kind of mixture on there. And that is our Thanksgiving salad. And then I got plenty of these to just kind of nibble on. Good stuff. Of course you're saying we should try this, right? You're saying it because I'm saying it. A little bit of radish. That tastes more like kohlrabi. That's radish. It's a salad. It's good. Before we go any further, we need to take a quick Kool-Aid break. They say don't drink the Kool-Aid, but what do those people know, right? So, if you get the cheap Kool-Aid packets from Aldi, and you're already stockpiling sugar, you can make Kool-Aid until the apocalypse comes to an end, if you know what I mean. Alright, so I just relocated my sunchokes down to this burner. My tea is ready. I'm going to use this more stable platform to actually cook my chicken on. We'll get that up to temperature. And I didn't boil as much water as I thought I did, so let that steep for just a little bit. And then you can always add just a touch more water. All that to do. Whatever it is that makes you feel relaxed, and you know, maybe it is the wine for you, or whatever you need. For me, it's tea. Hot cup of tea. Just makes all the difference in the world. chicken is pan frying. I just touched some raw chicken, so make sure you clean your hands. When you don't have running water, this becomes a lot more of an issue and a lot more trouble. And you say, well, how many of those wet wipes are you going to go through? A lot. How many of those wet wipes do I have? First, none of your business. Number two, a lot. And I have a lot of hand sanitizer to re-up my wet wipes with. I can save these if they're not too dirty, and I can refresh them. That's something you need to be thinking about, sanitation. All right, we're getting close. I just drained the sunchokes, and that's what it looks like. So you're going, hopefully you can see that well enough to say that that looks like mashed potatoes, or it looks like potatoes. When your electric beater stops working, you can still use these to mash your sunchokes, mash your potatoes, whatever you got. Just flip the chicken here and giving it another salting and pepper. Make sure you have enough seasonings in there in your stockpile. Just enough time for another bit of tea. Oh, that's good stuff. And some Kool-Aid. Cherry Kool-Aid. Surprisingly tasty. There it is. The mashed sunchokes are done. I put too much milk and butter in there, but we'll survive. All right, there we are. Shutting off the chicken. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Tasty, tasty, tasty. Got some chicken. Get some fried kohlrabi to try out. So there we have it. The chicken is done with some fried kohlrabi in there. Our mashed sunchokes, our salad of greens, of radish greens and kohlrabi leaves with kohlrabi sliced and radish slices with some olives and some dressing. We got our sorghum, dry roasted sorghum, and all of our fixings here. It is going to be delicious, I'm sure. I've already tasted them individually. Dried sunchokes and mashed sunchokes. Has a little bit of an aftertaste, but you can just pretend like whoever was cooking up your mashed potatoes did a pretty bad job. The chicken is fantastic. Fried kohlrabi. This tastes more like a potato than the sorghum does, and then the sunchokes do. And the roasted sorghum, it adds a dry crunch, not like wet stuffing, but it's almost like a crispy bread kind of add on there. Get some of that salad. This is an awesome harvest festival meal of Thanksgiving. So my Thanksgiving blessings to you and your family from here. I'm going to get on with my family on the phone just in the next couple of minutes. So and share this meal with them. But God bless you all. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving weekend, and don't spend too much today. Okay. All right. Adios.